Drug dealer KP? No way, Jose. Okay, I can't afford to be in that type of business. That's why I need to make sure everyone's subscribing and liking these videos so I can afford to be in the content creation avenue, because we are here in the finals of our first ever official Microsoft tournament. And it has gone all the way to a Game 6. Wham, now on the verge of being the first ever victor in the midweek muster. Can he close it with the Roost on Coastal Cliffs? Or will Louis MT of Team Elephant in the pink prove unbeatable on his English? Not a single English loss so far in this tournament. Can he keep the win streak alive? He really does go deep. He dives deep into his best Civ available right now. Only French and Delhi what remain, and that Game 7 is still going to be a question mark, I think, when we get to it, if we get to it. But this can at least look good. Roos, a bit of a tricky Civ right now. In the English matchup, I think you're going to be forced to play Feudal Age, even though you'd rather just go for Castle. Especially if your opponent's massing Lombos, because then you can't just play into the cheap and efficient Horse Archers that we've recently seen players returning to. Looking at the spawn on the map as well, I mean, Wham does have some safety here. Back goal, double tree line forward is usually the weakness though. That's why English at first, when Coastal Cliffs were released, were really popular on this map, is because there's a lot of forward resources that you can exploit with Lombo rushes. I'm curious, is Louis going to take that risk? Because the problem now is he's the one at risk of defeat, right? If he loses this game, grand final's over, he takes second place. In these situations, sometimes players get a little bit freaked, and they take a safer route, and we might be seeing that. Abbey of Kings is coming in. I don't think you can rush the 2TC here, guys, because here's the tricky thing about Coastal Cliffs. The town center is really far away. The option for it anyway, because the stone outcroppings don't spawn close. You can see it on both sides. They are intentionally shoved further away from the TC. This was a design choice by Avali to discourage TC booming. So with that in mind, it could be fast castle from both. Psych! Oh my god, he's doing it. I mean, at this point, why not just build the initial gold here? You could have saved 50 wood on this. He's legit just going for it. This is so ballsy because Wham, in theory, if he scouts this and now just goes for a Ford Stables, he can shut you down. Instead, Wham, oh my god. I feel like Louis is using Wham's playstyle against him here, folks, because Wham loves deer shoving. Puppy Paw loves deer shoving. So Louis is going to get away with this insanely greedy play because Wham isn't even looking. That's a rough one. I wonder if Wham had known. I mean, obviously, if you know, I think you just go for a Ford Stables, right? Well, not Ford, but you drop it here on the front of your base. Instead, Wham, he is gathering wood. There is the potential for it, but if his idea is fast castle, I don't think you're going to see him drop a Stables. Because that sacrifices your efficiency of timing, right? Usually you gather this wood so you can sell for gold. We'll see. The other tricky part, I guess, is even if you go for the knight, there is going to be a king to potentially block you. So with the way that Wham's scaling this, he might be too delayed. Guess we'll find out. Scout at least distracts him. And yeah, I love that. The Spidey instincts go off again for Wham. He's like, huh? Why are you coming over to challenge two scouts? What are you actually up to? And oh my god, they're both doing it. But actually, from Wham, this theoretically could be not a TC play. If he goes all feudal, he could be looking to outpost rush the English, which would be really, really odd to see, actually. English is like the hardest civ in the game to outpost rush. But if they don't see it coming, right, if you get a Wooden Fortress drop here, you just get a staging point. We'll find out. It looks like more coming out now. I think he was waiting for... No wheelbarrow. Okay, that makes me stroke my chin even more. In fairness, like, he doesn't need that many there, right? Because you can buy the double stone proc, and then you just need 50 overall. But I figured he'd just send one villager earlier. I was a little bit surprised he brought two. He could make a TC out here. That would secure him the berries and the gold, but I think he's going to go for, yep, the boar and the deer. Meanwhile, Louis, not going to get as good of a deal here, right? Like, he could actually go for the double deer stack. In fact, if he knows that it's 2TC, which he should do to the stone gathering, we could just see Louis take a ballsy route and go very forward, whereas English typically drop their TC on the gold. Love this. Yeah, I highly agree with what Louis is doing here. You need to go greedy. Your opponent has done the same. There's nothing to aggress you here. And I love this. He uses additional villagers to snipe the deer before the scout can shove it away. Oh, well played. Okay, so we are getting a macro game. And yeah, he might even get the snipe on the scout, which would be big here. A little bit surprised he didn't keep his own scout around. He could pull him back now and have got the double hit. King is already being a little bit of a nuisance. Not able to find Nico kill. Not even able to get hit in. The tree line is the jackpot here, guys. There's no wheelbarrow and your opponent's far away from safety here. So if you're going to hit anything, it should be the trees. All right, one's if you think that Louis is going to win this and get us a full series in these grand finals, or two's if you think Wham's going to close it out in Game 6. That's right, there's still potentially more to come. English is kind of scary here now, right? Rus used to counter English in the late game with the old Siege because their Spring Ultra were unbeatable and their Mangoes just deleted longbows. I don't think it plays that way anymore, though. With the changes to like the way units scale, I believe longbow spam in the late game is capable of beating Rus with spears. We go longbow, men at arms maybe, just get a front line basically, right? With elite army tactics, because your opponent's going to do Streltsy plus horsemen, the melee armor is really effective there. It comes down to like where you're fighting as well. If you have an open battlefield, Rus should do really well because they'll surround the longbows. But in theory anyway, I think the longbow scaling in the middle of castles is a lot stronger on the current patch because mangoes no longer counter this issue. And yeah, it was highlighted earlier, by the way. Reminded the people, the winner of this will be first seed in the next edition of Midweek Muster. So we'll get the most favorable matchup, which I believe this time around Beastie got in round number 1. Another thing to keep in mind, actually, is the Longbow versus Streltsy fight favors Longbows even more now, ever since they added in the bowstrings. So with that Unitech, you get the +1 range, right? There's a lot of things that have just kind of, I think, leaned this to be more favorable for English. It's weird as well, because England in some ways got heavily nerfed, right? Like, the men-at-arms change with the elite army tactics hurt them quite badly. But I think the overall changes to Siege may have enabled them further. This is not panoramic? No, we do panoramic and then zoom in by 2. So you guys get a little bit more of a close-up. You're still pretty far away from the action, I'd argue. I find it's a nice balance because what you'll discover over time is things like encoding exist, and encoding, the way that works is with platforms, there's a limitation on how much bits you can send. And AoE 4 is a very heavily dense game of foliage. So when you're zoomed really far out, you lose a lot of quality, no matter what you try and do. So we do have villagers moving up. There's a cheeky attempt at walls. Knights are being spammed, but Louis is now getting spears ready. I love the way this is accelerating already. You haven't just got them both chilling at home and doing nothing. Wham was trying to go for castle, but this play by Louis is forcing him to invest a bit more. Knights isn't bad to scale into, though. It's quite cool what he's doing with walls. This seems really silly, but guys, it's actually intentional. Your opponent went infantry, you went cav. All you need to do is wall the center slab, and that delays his arrival if you both attack. You'll always reach him first. Knights are now arriving. Good blockers here, so it looks like the villager is going to get sniped. Could even think about diving in, but he's showing a lot of respect here. For Wham, it's not about winning now, it's about winning a few minutes from now. He has the high trade house on the way. Louis, however, has invested quite heavily into military right now. And yeah, this right here, folks, is the power of the Golden Gate. It's ludicrously good. King also getting sniped, so another valuable unit lost for Louis. High trade house on the way. Be sure to get your numbers in for this one. Doesn't look like the best, but the funny thing about Rus with their high trade houses is even when it looks bad, it's actually decent. Also, remember, Louis was later on his TC timing, right? Wham also got his quicker because he was able to favorably exchange with Golden Gate. Like, do not underestimate the value that this landmark gives you in a TC race. That's how they shuffling around, but there's just nothing to gain here. It's a tricky thing. You know Louis eventually going to go for a white tower drop lightly between the two TCs. You could try to strong arm into the central golds, but I think against knights that's very ambitious here. Especially with the potential for things like horse archers to follow up. But we can see instead it's going to be the men-at-arms. Pretty effective here while your opponent's stuck on feudal lombos. And a funny wall coming from Louis, just trying to keep options open on the map. Yeah, dangerous what he's doing with the lombos. Like, you can just lose these to a single knight, but I think it's because he knows his opponent is trying to dive him with his knights already. So he's just looking to find, you know, low-cost rewards across the map. Double outpost dive is going to be rough as well. I do not know what that attack delay was. That's a terrible exchange. A little bit of out of time achieved, but a knight going down like that. Lombos are now coming all the way around the back. The gold not really being occupied, courtesy of things like the high trade house. 163 gold. This is what I'm talking about. I don't know. Like, is this landmark too good? Maybe Abbey of Trinity is just too bad. But we've been seeing, I want to say like 90% of the time, high trade house now. It's always the go-to at this stage. It makes sense when you think about it. Like, sure, Abbey of Trinity makes the monks cheaper. But a high trade house, basically, like, the first minute of existing gets you pretty much the difference in discount. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that way. Men-at-arms dive in. This is going to be shuffled away. Undermesh 2 is not coming for Wham. He does have archers being prepped, though, so already aware of the spear longbow threat. And you're noticing Louis isn't rushing the age. That's because he will be pushed off the deer soon, so he needs to set up the permanent food source now. Well, it technically wasn't High Trade House nerfed in some ways, because I think they nerfed the bounty escalation from the tiers, right? But in theory, like, tier 3 comes out now a lot more than it did post or pre-bounty change. Because before you had to clear enough deer and boars, right? And now you just keep gathering and eventually get it. And arms are going to shuffle in. White Tower now on the way, and he has to protect the loose TC. Pretty cool as well, because it somewhat protects the extinction of gold. Villagers are going to have to leave quite early here, but this might tip him off as to what's happening. Wham, he sees it. He will not give up a golden opportunity. Ironically, this is the White Tower in the series that Wham might be able to punish. Dives on in. No textiles either from Louis. Mistakes made there. Should be able to get the landmark up, but it's definitely going to cost him a few villages to do so. The men-at-arms are still running around on this. He just has to commit. I don't know why he pulled the villages that wide. A little bit of panic there. So Louis MT will get the age up, but look at the cost in blood here. Over a 10-villager lead now for Wham. Immediately garrisons inside the White Tower. Not going to be quick to kill these men-at-arms either. Remember, he never got any blacksmith tech upgrades, so yeah, the bow damage is quite high, but not as quick of a kill as you'd like. A lot of idle time now forced on Louis at the beginning of his age up, while Wham is now happily picking up relics and prepping for a push. Damn, that was vile. I think Louis panicked a little, though. He had double outpost still when he pulled the villagers away. Had he just accepted their fate, delayed a little bit longer, that tech up would have been a lot cleaner and maybe cost you 5-6 villages max. I think it cost him almost double, if I'm not mistaken. Really tricky situation now because he knows the relics have to be being hoovered up. He doesn't play protect to many of them. He's got spears at least coming out to defend one. Funnily enough, the Warrior Monk is actually not even going to go for that one. He's going to go even more greedy, which is going to pay off here. Oh my god, this hurts. Going through into the tree lines. We talked about how English can usually constrict the wood and ruin the game for their opponents on this map. Goes both ways, right? English is a wood-heavy civ. Even though you get these discounts on farms, you need so much when you're setting up the clusters like this. So he's going to dive underneath the TC. He immediately starts torching the primary. For good reason. There's still no blacksmith techs. And he has double undermesh. Counter raid is going to come in, but nowhere near as impactful. He's legit just going to take this down. It's not a quick kill by any means. But here's a kill that can happen. I don't know. What are you doing, mate? Are you torn between whether you should garrison or kill something? Glad we could help you. He just doesn't have an army. This is the tricky part about making a White Tower this loose, by the way. Same with the TC this loose. Like, if you don't have control of the game at the beginning of Castle Age, this happens. He committed the white tower to protect the secondary, and now he has nothing to protect his primary or his farms. This white tower placement, ironically, after the white tower placement of Game 2 delivered an insane victory, this one may have just cost Louis MT the grand finals. Knights coming in now, but irrelevant against an army this big. They at least force a reaction. Admittedly, that doesn't need to happen here. TC now down to almost a third of its HP. Ball's not quite going to be able to complete. It's going to try to get him as tight as possible, but wow, I'm just so comfortable now in this game. That late game I talked about that he should fear against the English. You don't have to when you shut him down this early. There you go. That is it. 1-0. Give it up for your first champion ever in the Killer Pigeon midweek muster. There could be only one, and it will be etched in history as Wham. Insane game, insane series overall. Big congrats to Wham. Commiseration to Louis. He put up an insane fight here. I was impressed by some of the games he took, the way he took them as well, especially on traditional maps. And I'm sure we'll see more of them. So that means that Wham, he gets the free $100 on offer for this first week. The first edition, I'm sure he'll be looking to claim more as the weeks go on. He gets automatically invited to the top seed for number 2. Louis MT, I'm sure, will be back again. He loves playing in these, and I'm sure we're going to see more known names. Maybe that one who just raided me, Marine Lord. Thank you very much for the raid, mate. Hopefully, we'll see him in the coming weeks, maybe week 3, for example. But guys, if you like this, make sure you are subscribing to the videos. Make sure you're liking, commenting down below as these get uploaded. They will all end up on the YouTube side, and I'll see you all in the next chapter, the next edition of the midweek muster that is just around the corner.